Hello, hello. We've got it. Good news. So thank you all for being here. First, I just wanted to thank Jed for putting together such a terrific event. It's such a change to think where we were last year and where we are now. And thank you all for coming. And I'm gonna just jump into it because I know we're short. We've got lots to talk about, short on time. So I'm going to have everybody quickly introduce themselves, and then we'll just go into a discussion on fragrance and beauty and all things cannabis. So yes, you know what? Start on my right.
Yeah, we can share a mic.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
We're used to sharing.
We've been told not to share the mics because of the COVID thing.
But
But you're together, so
together.
yes, give one. We'll share. We'll share. It's all about sharing. We're just excited not to have masks on, so.
Feels really nice.
It's working?
Hello? Yeah, okay.
Beautiful, thank you.
Hello? Oh yeah.
So just a quick shout out to who you are.
Hi everybody, thanks for sharing this moment with us. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm not the great speaker, but I hope I can be enlightening for you. And my name is Kaya from Folie Plusieurs, which is an olfactive gallery and studio based in New York. Our perfumers are in Paris, and we have a studio in Berlin.
Perfect.
And I am Drew Martin. We have a cannabis brand based out of Los Angeles, and particularly important to this talk, we have collaborated with Heretic Perfume, an LA-based natural perfumer, to create the Herbalist, which is a THC-infused fragrance. We're really excited to be the first ones to bring that to market, and have just unveiled a CBD sister format as well this week.
Hi, I'm Jessica from Shen Beauty, and I own a retail and online platform that sells no CBD. I do.
Hi there, I'm Matthew Malin from MALIN+GOETZ, and we have a skin and hair care business.
And I'm Andrew Getz from MALIN+GOETZ. We have a skin and hair care business, and obviously a cannabis faux product, so to speak, because there's no CBD in it.
So we'll just jump into that because it feels like in some very strange way that fragrance is like the last to join this infusion group. And you've seen skincare, you've seen beauty, you've seen cosmetics, and yet, you know, you're like the last of the Mohicans. Why do you think that was?
Well, I think it's worth noting that our candle, which is called cannabis, has been around for
years.
For 14 or 15 years. So in some ways, I'd like to believe we were the first.
First to market.
I'm going with it.
So that's a good thing. I don't know. I mean, what we're doing is purely conceptual. It was meant to sort of take this apothecary concept, something that had been around, cannabis had been around for a very long time, and really develop it into a fragrance.
And a little storytelling. I mean, I think we chose cannabis, one, to be a little cheeky at the time because nobody was doing it. And there was something definitely apothecary-like about it. Cannabis had been used in apothecaries for generations. There was also something very personal in the fragrance for me, having had lived in Amsterdam for a long time. It was my Proustian Madeleine. To create the candle, you light it up and have something savory, something sweet, and you go.
And the scent itself is something green, something chocolatey, something spicy. It's reminiscent of all the ideas that you may have of cannabis, but hopefully in the most positive way.
And then it feels like fragrance has followed.
I think so. I think first and foremost, it's been really difficult in such a regulated market, right? To put THC in a fragrance, and obviously that means we've just done it. It was definitely a hurdle in that we can now only sell it in dispensaries, so distribution is really difficult. The whole production, it has to be under a licensed facility, which we thankfully have. But I think then if you look at the isolated components, right, like CBD, there's not a big olfactive profile if you're isolating these parts of the plant, right? And so in that it's fragrance, it's difficult then if you're looking at it from an olfactive profile. And I think that's been kind of a difficult thing to navigate.
Thoughts?
Well, I was thinking it's interesting that the title of the show is called "To Return to Fragrance," because I think like the new mode of luxury is this return to self, self-discovery, self-actualization, self-fulfillment, and then self-healing. And perfumery has been an industry where, for many years, it's about imposing a scent on an individual, working from the out in, similar to luxury bags and clothing and things like that. But it was interesting to work with CBD as a raw material because you're actually working from the inside out. There's the aromatic experience of the fragrance, which is, it's not complicated to make a beautiful fragrance. But you have the bodily, you have the olfactive effect, but then with the CBD you have this bodily experience. And ultimately I think that's what we're looking for, is this feeling of transcendence, expansion, and I'll stop talking.
Jessica, thoughts on where we are within the fragrance community or this blended category?
I think that from a retail perspective, it obviously is a very gray area, especially for e-com purposes. But I also believe that there's been so much medical research, this is just my thought process, that there's been so much medical research on the effects of CBD on your skin and absorption and what it can do for joints, et cetera, that I don't think that people even thought about distilling it or extracting the necessary components, ingredients, in order to utilize it as a fragrance. And then taking that one step further is, will it work, right? When you inhale CBD fragrance, does it then work? So I think that there's maybe a disconnect in a sense of ingestible or on skincare as opposed to smelling it, fragrance.
So is there a functional component to these products yet, or is that where we're going? Is that next level?
I think that functional fragrance is really kind of the buzzy word right now, right? Is we're beginning to kind of explore how a fragrance can functionally affect your body. And we know that happens obviously with aromatherapy, and you look at compounds like lavender or hinoki, these sort of grounding things that do affect your nervous system and how your body feels. And I think that moving then into CBD and THC is furthering that in a really interesting way, and it's in that conversation is now starting to happen, because I think the functionality of these molecules and of cannabis in general in a fragrance is really powerful, and something we're just now diving into, which is really exciting.
And for you folks, it must have been about the memory, because if the smell is there, and since smell is our strongest scent of the senses, that must have been something that sort of helped catapult
It was definitely an olfactory, straightforward, linear equation when we did this. I don't even think we knew what the word CBD was at that time, and we were doing it purely as an olfactory story, to tell a story about a personal experience that we had and related to our brand, which was rooted in the apothecary experience.
Yeah, but similarly, we were always trying to take these apothecary ideas and modernize them. And part of that is, how do you use lavender in a new way? And what does that mean for your skin? Does eucalyptus actually help to decrease bacteria on your skin? And these kinds of ideas, well, eucalyptus smells really beautiful. And so how do you sort of take that conceptual idea for something that we weren't going to be using to alter somebody's mood or whatever with cannabis, but put it into a fragrance specifically from a conceptual idea as a fun, playful, olfactory experience?
Yeah, the irony was when we did it, we weren't allowed to we tried to put CBDs in it
We actually
early on.
did.
We did, and then we got our hands slapped because you couldn't legally do that.
We
and then
couldn't distribute it.
And then in Europe, we had the opposite problem. We couldn't call something cannabis because it didn't have CBD or cannabis product in it. So it was a lose-lose situation for us at the beginning, which we figured out.
When I first smelled their candle, there's two things that reminds me of high school, speaking of scent: Acqua di Gio and cannabis.
Yeah.
And so your candle,
Yeah, as we like to say, dazed and perfumed.
my high school boyfriend wore Acqua di Gio, and clearly I smoked a lot of pot, so
Awesome.
I would think all these components are help making these items popular. They're all the worlds are colliding together now. Do you think that that's true?
In terms of
Just in terms of memory, in terms of also functionality, in terms of this being this blended category.
Absolutely. I worked as an olfactive director for Black Dahlia, which already has a range of CBD products. And the question then was, how do we use scent in the service of someone? How can we implement scent in a deeper context of someone's everyday life? And when they came to me with to develop a fragrance for them, we wanted to kind of we started it from an approach of what kind of actions we can trigger in an individual, rather than just a smell of sleep, a smell of action, but will this scent prompt an action? And I guess that's the functionality aspect of it, right? In terms of just the olfactive makeup of the scent, you have all these raw materials that are really seductive, but since we're using CBD and we know there's a functional aspect to it, we try to complement it with raw materials that really have therapeutic benefits, or
Sure. And then
sorry.
I think there's a duality here too, in terms of if thinking about the word functional for a fragrance and understanding the science and the chemistry behind the functionality, but also as you were touching on this evoking of memory, right? And that's, I think, why people fall so deeply in love with fragrance, is because it's so closely tied to these memories, and they're personal for every person, and each person experiences that differently. And I'm certainly not a perfumer by trade, but I use that same sort of concept in my other products, and our primary product being a smokable pre-roll that's blended with different herbs, and that's done in such a way because I know that those aromas affect every person and they affect them differently. For me, when I add rose petals, one of my pre-rolls has rose petals and peppermint leaves in it. For me, that's a very strong association to, my mother tending garden as a child. She had a full rose garden. And peppermint, on the other hand, for me, has really visceral memories to being in Morocco and sipping peppermint tea every afternoon. And so when I experience this, I have this dance that happens of memory in my head, and I know that when you smoke this or when you smoke it and you inhale this and smell this, you're going to have a completely different experience, and I think that's functional as well. I think it's functioning in a really
I love that scent is so subjective. That's the beautiful thing about it. It's you can be the author of something, but somebody's going to read it in a different way.
And regardless, too, everyone is connected to it because everyone has a memory of it, whether it was a positive or a negative one.
Exactly.
Jessica, I'm wondering if you're starting to see, as you curate things for the store, if there are more products that are coming to you for your consideration, and if the fragrance arena is opening up for you as well.
Fragrance has always been really hard for Shen because we are not Sephora and we're not a department store.
Which is a good thing.
Which I think is a very good thing.
Here, here.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
So then we all agree. But I have to say, when we brought in Heretic, Douglas's brand, who you did the partnership with, it kind of turned on the light switch for our consumer to find a clean fragrance. Because I do think that fragrances should be clean. That's one thing that I really believe in. And that sort of led to a new brand that we launched by Rayo. But what's interesting about it is that Nuco launched fragrances called functional fragrances, right? And so they coined their 3 fragrances, functional fragrances, meant to calm you down, lift your spirits, and ease your mind. I can't remember what the third one is because it just launched. But I do find that the cross-pollination of all of it together has really catapulted the category for us.
So that goes to profit. Is it profitable? I mean, you guys have had 14 years of this amazing candle. So in terms of profit, is it too soon to see profit? Have you seen profit for 14 years?
Yes.
Cannabis is a good seller for us,
Yeah.
so yeah, we're happy.
And when you compare it to all of the other, in a really wonderful line that you guys have cultivated over the years. Does it stand out as a #1 seller?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have 5 categories of product. We do face, body, hair, fragrances, and candles. And in the top 10 of everything in the entire brand, our cannabis candle ranks. So it's definitely up there. It's definitely an important item for us. Candles for us, compared to skincare, are a lower margin business, but the franchise of cannabis, because now it's in a perfume, in a perfume oil, it's in a hand wash, and our customers keep asking for more and more, it's a highly profitable franchise for us, for sure.
Have you started, maybe it's too new because you're just kicking it off.
It is early. I think that on the THC side, we felt very strongly about, for us, if we wanted to make a fragrance that was built around cannabis and was meant to smell like cannabis, we needed to use cannabis. And that meant a full extract of the plant, which meant a lot of THC came with it. And that was beautiful. We did that because we felt like the conversation needed to be had. We felt like we really needed to honor and uplift the plant and include all of those cannabinoids. That said, distribution is extremely difficult. And so what we've done is we've pivoted and created a sister line as well with hemp extracts. We're using wide spectrum extracts. We're pulling all the CBD as well, but we've limited that THC. And this, to be fair, very early, just launched this week.
Well, that is super.
But I think that now the ability to be able to distribute this across the country and outside of dispensaries only in California, we'll find out. But I think there's a lot of viability there, for sure.
What have your experiences been so far?
Black Dahlia just launched last month, so I think, but there's been a great momentum behind the brands and the releases. So it's too soon to call it, I guess. Yeah.
So, and then in that case, what pushed you to start these products? What was the inception for at least both of you guys?
Ours was really just that same thing to forward the conversation about cannabis and its applications and how people can view the plant to break stigma and to kind of change the lane of where cannabis is. And so, we're plant nerds, and we love working with all these different plant materials. And so that, I think, was really a passion project to begin with, and was responded to so well that we've now moved into the CBD lane, and I think it's going to be really fun to get into.
Was there an impetus for you or something that was an aha moment?
Yeah, absolutely. It was to create, basically to create a deeper connection between the mind and body. I love the interrelationship between plants and humans because we rely on each other to grow, to survive, to reproduce. And plants don't necessarily just serve us for food, but they also kind of satisfy our desire for transcendence, for healing and these kind of things. So it's almost a natural progression that with perfumery to kind of use something of this substance. And just from the raw material component, it's very seductive. An interesting business would just be to sell the raw material to different fragrance houses like Givaudan, Simrise, all these companies, because there's a lot of perfumers that make recreations of different skunk and cannabis and these kind of things using different raw materials, But then there's the issue of regulation, and I don't know how that works.
I think it works differently from every state to every state, so it's almost impossible to, when you have all those problems and all that navigating, what becomes the greatest challenges?
Well, we don't face that because we don't have it. We eliminated that one from the beginning.
And I was wondering, is that at the moment, do you have future plans to change that or to?
At the moment, not. I mean, I think there are a lot of people, it's evolved into obviously a completely new industry that didn't exist when we started. And there are much better qualified people than the two of us to be doing it. I think we're proud that what we did to sort of ignite something, but we'll probably leave it at that.
Although on a global basis, as you're looking to distribute product, things that are affecting your skin or whatever it happens to be, it's becoming more and more globally regulated. And so we're facing global regulation on a regular basis and having to re-regulate our products. There are certain things that we have that are OTC, for instance, sunscreens. You know, we can't just ship them anywhere unless we've actually regulated them with the country that they're going into. So it's a constant evolving process. And, you know, 14 years ago, 18 years ago, we would never have considered, there wasn't a thought to put cannabis in something. It wasn't possible to do that. It has moisturizing properties. We've talked about that as an ingredient, and if you put it in low enough, at least 14 years ago, we thought, for the United States at least, that, you know, it was fine. You could have it in there, but you could make no claims about it in any way, shape, or form. So, you know, these things are constantly evolving, and it's becoming harder to actually distribute on a global basis from a
It's
regulatory
becoming complex
perspective.
and less complex simultaneously.
Not just cannabis, everything.
I hear we have 10 minutes left, so I'm just going to quickly open it up to the floor in case there's a question. I just want any questions. Didn't want anybody to feel left out. No questions? Okay, we'll go. So as the industry continues to evolve and as it gets larger, are there trends that you're seeing? You must be, as you see stuff come into the store all the time, what are the trends that you're experiencing?
I don't really look at trends, so that's hard for me. It's not something I do, but I find that CBD is, I guess, trend-worthy, almost to the point of overwhelmingly so that that's sort of everyone's tagline. Now, I think, though, to the point of, you know, profitability and, you know, legality, it's a huge issue. For example, we sell CBD, but we don't put any CBD on our website. We were shut down by Amazon Pay. We've been shut down multiple times. And I also think that, you know, there's a lot of money in tax revenue that our country could use, so it's a real shame considering that. And I think that moving further, you know, as hopefully the regulations change faster than they have in the recent past, that it will be something that we can sell on a global basis and not have as much regulation. But I think the trend is here. I think it's not a trend anymore. It's
a way of life.
It's a way of life.
It's been demystified, I think.
I don't think that CBD is a trend. I don't think THC is, and I think that when it was possibly hush-hush, I think people are now more open to it, similar to sex, right? Like, they're just more open to sex, they're more open to marijuana, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's social media or...
Well, I think we have clinical research now, too, which kind of bridges that gap in consumer trust,
That's
right?
a good point.
I think, and especially on the CBD side, now that we're being able to do this research, there's a feeling of safety and a proven efficacy of these
Yeah, but people, and not to go against you, but also to, like, go against you. You know, in Colorado, they've been using THC and CBD for people with, you know, seizures and stuff for years and years and years. So it's really just sort of coming into the mass market, I feel like.
Yeah, I think when
Doing
Martha
research
puts on her cover and she's popping gummies.
Yeah, so she's created her line of gummies.
It's
and
not a
sucking
trend
candy.
anymore. It's here to stay.
It's become very banal.
But there is a crossover between CBD and beauty, just in terms of a general trend in the marketplace, which is simply well-being.
Yeah.
So there's a huge, and COVID has certainly brought that forward in so many ways. People are home. They want to have these personal experiences that make
very
them
much
feel
so.
good, you know, and that's what we're all doing in some way, shape, or form.
And I think they're looking to not only experience something different, but to feel better, you know?
Don't we all want to feel better?
Yeah, and that idea of the return to fragrance, right, is that we've not had any scent.
We do have a question, and fantastic.
Just, I'm curious about with THC and CBD, how do you work from your perspective as owners, the decriminalization of THC and how it's affecting specifically like African American communities? How do you face that with trying to be inclusive with your brand, but also considering how there's still that deep like criminalization towards certain community members?
I can certainly speak to that because
Yes,
I'm in the
please.
THC space. I mean, it's a massively important thing, and in California, we you know, the state set about creating a system that really kind of uplifted and focused on social equity. Admittedly, it was fully botched, and in Los Angeles, where we live and operate, we're still just now getting equity applicants their licenses, 4 years later? So it's a huge issue. I think that there's a responsibility in every cannabis actor and operator, especially being a white-bodied person in a space that was built on the backs of black and brown people, right? And so for us, that means working a lot in a lot of initiatives. We're giving back, where we're uplifting partners, doing mentorship, providing services. Thankfully, we're licensed and we have a facility. We can pull people in. There's some incredible groups that have formed up in San Francisco as well as Los Angeles. We're founding members of a group called Cannabis for Black Lives, where we donate portions of sales and amplify a lot of voices. And so that's definitely ingrained in what we're doing every single day, and try to push that forward because it's crucial. And really looking at New York now to do it right and to prioritize social equity from day one. Hopefully they can learn from California's mistakes.
THC in the products? No, unfortunately. Any question that I didn't ask as we wrapped? Oh, another question in the audience? No? Okay, everybody's a little gun shy. We've all been home for 18 months with ourselves and our personalities, of which now I have many. Anything that I didn't ask that you felt might be important to just state, or a last thought or a surprise or a piece of advice for anybody out there who's thinking of launching fragrance, no fragrance, CBD, THC? There must have been a takeaway.
Go for it. Do it.
A takeaway, a piece of advice for our fabulous community? Do it,
Look,
don't do it.
Just go for it.
Do it.
Go for
I
it.
think
I say do it because
Where's the rah-rah?
with
Come on.
anything in life, like you just have to go for it. Otherwise, you never know if you're going to fail or if it's going to be a win.
I think we're perfectly positioned right now coming out of 18 months of lockdown where we couldn't smell if anyone else here had COVID. This ability now to re-engage the senses in a way that have been so muted for so long, for me is so exciting. And I think for everyone else it is as well. And I think so in that sense, I think that the market is going to move that way as well. And people want to engage and they want to have this olfactive and sensory experience on a regular basis in a way that we haven't been able to. And I think that's really exciting. So I would encourage everyone to move in that direction as well.
Well, I can't thank everyone enough for their time today. Thank you all for being here. There's lots of products to experience and things to sample, and it'll make you feel good, so try everything.